What's up, everybody? I'm Michael Allen, and this is the Movie Minute. This episode of the Movie Minute, we are talking about Ali Abbasi's new controversial film about Donald Trump, The Apprentice. So, if you're looking for a non-spoiler review, let's jump on in. Now, I'm typically not a very political person. I don't really get into the discourse that much, but it's funny to me because it tends to be pretty common that one of these films will drop fairly close to election season every single time a United States election comes around. And so I wasn't surprised to see that this was dropping when it was, but it's a really interesting movie. There were rumors that the Trump family didn't want this film to happen. There were rumors that the left didn't want this movie to happen. Something else I find really interesting about this film is Ali Abbasi is from Iran. I mean, he's not from America, and so he brings a unique perspective to this story. The film is essentially a biopic about Donald Trump and his beginnings in the 1970s and the 1980s and how he got his real estate career started, all surrounding this infamous lawyer, Roy Cohn. Now, Roy, I say infamous, is because he really was one of those lawyers that you were like, if you were in deep trouble for something you probably did, you called Roy Cohn and he was going to get you out of it. He was one of those type of lawyers. So, you have this movie that's based around the life of Donald Trump that is kind of asking the question, how did Donald Trump become the man that he is today? And it asks some very interesting questions in some really interesting ways. So, let's jump in and talk about what I liked. As a film director, I really lean in towards performance. Just because I grew up doing musical theater, I grew up being on the stage, I love acting. I wanted to be an actor first before I wanted to be a director. And so acting always jumps out to me, and that's why I was interested in this film in the first place, is I saw that Sebastian Stan was playing Donald Trump and Jeremy Strong was playing Roy Cohn. Those two guys are very good actors. I really was very excited about what they were going to bring to the table, and they did not disappoint. Sebastian Stan really nailed Donald Trump. His performance was good because a lot of what we see nowadays with Donald Trump is the SNL highly stereotyped impression of Donald Trump and not actually what Donald Trump sounds like. Sebastian Stan brought something very real and nuanced. It felt very grounded.
I know what I'm doing.
It was a grounded performance, and all of the little things, how he moved his mouth, how he moved his hands, how he walked, how he moved his head, all of those things are subtle little things that Sebastian Stan paid very close attention to, and he nailed the performance. And I cannot leave out Jeremy Strong. Jeremy Strong's performance of Roy Cohn was insane. He was such an interesting character if you look into history of who he was, how he spoke, his background, his secrets, all of those things kind of add into who he was. And Jeremy Strong seemed to capture all of that. He was absolutely electric on screen. Every time Jeremy Strong was on screen as Roy Cohn, you were leaning in. You were hanging on his every word. That's incredible performance, my friends. And it's incredible direction. And I loved the direction of this film. Ali Abbasi, I mean, he is most known for The Last of Us, which was incredibly directed as well. And so I'm not surprised, but he really brought a very grounded story to the screen. I think that I thought this film was going to be like a Trump bash fest, and that's not actually what it was. It really was a deeper look at Trump's life, not just the stereotype of who he is, but who he was, and then his journey to becoming the former president, now running for president again. Another thing I really liked about this film is the story and the themes presented in the film itself. I thought this was going to be a Trump bash session, and it wasn't that. It really was a balanced look into the leadership framework of America. I think that bringing in Roy Cohn and how he influenced Trump, it's not just about Trump. It's actually so much about how the core of American leadership and values does not lie in helping people right now. It really lies in money and power and sex. And that doesn't just control Donald Trump and it doesn't motivate Trump. It motivates our politicians and our leaders.
I record everything in case I need it.
Well, that's illegal.
You have to be willing to do anything to anyone to win.
I think that the film was like, look at the corruption in the American system. And it was interesting thinking about the system is corrupt because people are corrupt. And that is an interesting question, my friends. And I loved that theme that Ali explored throughout the entire film. There wasn't a lot wrong with this film. It's a very solid film. But one of the things that rose to the top that I didn't like is as we marched towards the end of the film, as we went through the end of Act 2 into Act 3 and the finale, some of the setups that we saw happen with some of the characters and some of those moments that were set up were not fully paid off in the end. And that was just a little bit of an element of focus. Like it kind of lacked a little bit of focus at the end. It's almost like we got a little bit too caught up with the personality of Trump instead of really focusing on the story because the story was so strong throughout the whole film. The other thing that I didn't really like about this film is just some of the ambiguity surrounding the true events of the film. You know, they tell you when the film opens, this film is based on true events. Some things have been dramatized for the sake of a movie. And so that right away is telling you not all of this is true. A lot of this is embellished. A lot of it is dramatized. There's a couple things in this film that when it was said on screen, I thought, I don't know if that's the way it really went down. From an entertainment standpoint, this film was extremely entertaining. I was absolutely drawn in. It was really fascinating to learn a little bit more about Trump's family, about his background, about Roy Cohn, and about how Trump's obsession with winning began. It's really interesting. And so I would give this a solid 9 out of 10 for entertainment. It completely surprised me there. Everything was well done. Like I said, directing, performances, editing, sound, all of it was really, really solid. And so I'd give it an 8 out of 10 for critics rating. So this is a solid 8.5 out of 10 for me for The Apprentice, which completely shocked me. This wasn't really on my radar as one of the better films of the year. And I think it is. I think it's one of the better films of the year, which is why I'm going to give an Oscar bait badge. Haven't given this one in a long time, but I think that this film is going to come in and it's going to scoop up quite a few nominations. Now, I think it would be controversial for it to get nominations, so we'll see if it really happens. The performances deserve it, and Ali's direction definitely deserves it. And so we'll see if the Academy decides to elevate this. At the end of the day, The Apprentice is surprising with incredible performances and just a wonderfully directed movie of incredible stories about really interesting history surrounding Donald Trump. If you saw The Apprentice, jump down into the comments and tell me what you thought. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe. Would love to have you on this movie journey with me. And until next time, everybody, peace out.